The Ides of March are upon ye. Welcome to another edition of, it's pretty high there. I gotta get my gain down. There we go. Check mic, check a mic. That's a vocal effect that I'm doing, not my new mixer. Although I can do vocal effects in my new mixer. What's happening, everybody? This is Robert Phoenix. Welcome to another edition of 15 minutes of flame. It's a beautiful day here. Another day without freaking chemtrails. I'm going to just completely and utterly celebrate and affirm the beauty of this holographic, dome-like existence and all of its divine repercussions. And we need to, because today is the Ides of March, and there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of history around the Ides of March as well. And, we can get into that. And in fact, I have gotten into that on the website. I've got a new post up. If you haven't seen it, go on over to robertphoenix.com and you can check it out. And last night I was up quite late doing a 2-hour mind meld with Randy Moggins and Emily Moyer. You got to check that out. I'll post that on the website today. It's over on YouTube and under Off Planet Radio, but I'll put it on my website. And it's also posted on Facebook. It's on the Off Planet page, and it's also on my page. And we get into a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. Everything from chemtrails to the Tavistock involvement in the punk rock movement, and a lot in between. It's always great to get on and just spirit jam with Randy and Emily, because we've got this interesting chemistry and not a lot of ego, and everybody wants to talk and everybody wants to listen and everybody wants to contribute, and it's all very synergistic, which is great. So this is my third show with them, and we got into a lot of astrology. I'm going to get into some astrology today, as a matter of fact. Since we are in the Ides of March, it would help us to kind of understand what's happening today. Now, the chart at 3:15 at Washington time is on my website. You can check that out. It's very heavily slanted towards sort of one portion of the chart. It almost makes a classic bowl. We'll have a classic bowl chart for most of today. The only derivation will be kind of one house that's unoccupied. And in the bowl chart, for the individual, the biggest challenge is not the houses that are occupied, but it's the houses that are unoccupied, the houses that are empty or vacant. And that tends to be a lack of development that over the course of a lifetime, the individual needs to explore and figure out. And they will do that through transits, obviously, when planets transit through the other side of the chart, or when somebody else's chart lines up over there. Then they'll be forced to move out of their comfort zones of the house that occupies those planets. The other thing with a bold chart is there's generally only one opposition, and that's with the planet at the top of the chart and at the bottom of the chart. So that's actually a really interesting aspect in a chart that has very little opposition. And we could take that on a surface level, on a superficial level, and say there's a person that doesn't have a lot of opposition in their life. But when they do have opposition, since there's only one opposing force in the chart, sometimes it can be very critical. When we don't have a lot of aspects and if a person's not used to dealing with opposition, and all of a sudden they get hammered with one aspect, either in the midpoint, squaring the opposition, or actually on the opposition itself, doesn't matter what pole it is, I think it can often be a crisis in an individual's chart. We were looking at this last night with Mike Pence's chart, and I want to get into Mike Pence's chart today. It is a weird chart. It is really weird, I have to say. There's no time. And maybe I could rectify his chart. He's so kind of grim. It's not that he's grim in the same way that like Bob Dole was kind of grim. There's a grimness to Bob Dole. Although, he was actually a pretty, I think, happy guy. Maybe that's a byproduct of being a Virgo. I think Bob Dole is a Virgo. Could you imagine Bob Dole as a president? Boy. Bob Oatmeal. Not that you need to have a really sparkling president. I was watching, we're going to get back to Mike Pence's chart in a second. I was watching a video of Obama at, what was it, where do you go, Yale or Harvard? I think Harvard, right? He went to Harvard. I always get the two mixed up with Obama. And I don't want somebody coming to me, Robert, you know it's cool, Obama. I always get these two mixed up. Yeah, it was a Harvard Law Review. Anyway, there's a video on Obama from 1995 where he's speaking at Harvard, and he's the same guy. He's the same guy then as he is now, maybe just a little more polished, but he's the same guy. And I think you could actually look at that version of Obama and say to yourself, this guy he's presidential. He carried himself incredibly well. He carried himself as articulate and kind of urbane and witty, and came across as very serious when he got into the exploration of his identity and talking very painfully about bringing his white friends to a black party and being pissed off that they wanted to leave so soon because they were uncomfortable. He was coming across as like a Americanized version of Frantz Fanon, whom he, by the way, is a big fan of. Frantz Fanon gave us the concept of cognitive dissonance, and he was insane. So I guess you get jewels every now and then from somebody who's insane. This has been proven to be true, actually. Anyway, Obama he didn't change at all. He did not evolve. What you saw then is pretty much what you see now. I'd like to see somebody that would evolve. He just kind of got better at being that. It was kind of like the distilled version of that. And I guess that's not bad, but I want to see somebody evolve over time. Like I would have loved to have seen him really blow that speech at Harvard. Oh, man, this guy really grew. He grew into it. But he was always that. We talked about him last night. He was he became this almost Peter Pan-like president. That he didn't really evolve in his presidency either. Not again. It'd be hard pressed to kind of go back and see. Reagan is probably the last guy that evolved. All the rest just sort of were there. Bush did not evolve at all. Neither did Clinton. And Obama really didn't either. It's going to be interesting to see how Trump evolves if he does. Anyway, getting back to Pence and his chart. So there's no birth time for Mike Pence, but I'm gonna fire his chart up here, and this is the piece that. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. This is the piece that blew my mind, and then Randy brought in some really interesting information. Now Mike Pence has this really. Hold on. Astrological chart. Sorry. I have a Hall & Oates song in my head. I think there's a name for that disorder. I like Hall & Oates, though. Just can't get their songs out of your head. Okay. Now, Pence is a Gemini sun, like Trump, a Gemini sun. So they've got this Gemini thing going on, and we've discussed that. And Pence has a Mercury in Gemini, and oh my God, Mercury in Gemini, and so he's really bright. Anybody that's got Mercury in Gemini, they're bright. It's a birthright. It's all what you do with that. And then he has Moon in Gemini, which is in a wide conjunction, 8 degrees, with his Mercury in Gemini. So you get and he's born on a new moon. So Trump is born on a full moon, and Pence is born on a new moon. They've got opposite moons. And then they're both Gemini. Very weird. There's like this weird symmetry between Trump and Pence. And you want to get on the air. This cat's going to be a human in her next life. Hey, it's 9/11. 9/11. 9/11. 9/11. 9/11. Right now. So they have this weird symmetry with opposite moons. Although Pence's moon is almost Cancer. It's almost Cancerian. It's at that 29th degree. Anytime you get a planet at the 29th degree, there's a need, there's like this, oh, I want to get there, I want to get there, I want to get there, I want to get there. And he really wants to be emotional. And he's got some water in his chart, but it's funky water. It's funky water. It's Jupiter, Neptune, and Scorpio, and they're both retrograde. And that's it for water. And I'll talk about those planets in a minute and what they do in the chart. It's like he wants to be empathic. He wants to be able to go to that 0 degree Cancerian moon, but he's hung up on 29 Gemini and the duality of the moon. And he does have some intuitive capacity because he's got that Mercury moon conjunction. But it comes from a mental place. There's a lot of kind of projection with that. But he's got because he's got almost like a bowl chart, just like we were talking about with today's astrology, he's got a Moon-Saturn opposition. It's the only opposition he has in his chart. That's it. Unless you count Chiron in his opposition to Pluto, which I guess we could. He's got his Chiron almost the same degree as me. Mike Pence is a year older than me. He feels like he's about 10 years. I mean, Mike Pence, when you say Mike Pence, 57, he looks 57, maybe 61, 62. You look at me, hey, look, I don't think I look 56 years old. But I'm being vain. An investment in my vanity. The Moon-Saturn opposition makes him rigid emotionally. It's a rigidity. There's this kind of austerity, like he can't lighten up, with that the Moon-Saturn opposition. Strange, high strange with mother and father. Saturn in Capricorn. That's the highest planet in this chart. Saturn in Capricorn at 5 degrees. But here's where his chart gets really strange. He has a Venus-Mars-Uranus. Venus-Mars conjunction from 0 to 3. Uranus at 13. All in Leo. Okay? All in Leo. The Venus-Mars is tight, 3 degrees. Now, normally that's a pretty good... It can be like a pretty good indicator if the conjunction is a little bit wider. That conjunction is really close. When you get within 4 degrees in a conjunction, there's this kind of celestial miscegenation that takes place, and there can be confusion when planets get sort of stacked on each other. And but if you have, say, Venus Mars at 6 degree conjunction, that's not bad. I mean, that's actually pretty good. It's like blending the masculine Mars, the feminine Venus. It's good. It can allow you to kind of roll with both sexes and be okay with the masculine side of yourself and the feminine side of yourself. When it gets really crunched, it gets difficult. And that masculine and feminine kind of vibe gets all mixed up. And it's in Leo now. Remember that. It's in Leo. Leo represents children. Children. And then he has Uranus, which is at 13 degrees Leo. And it's a very wide 10-degree conjunction with Mars.